Hello YouTube, welcome again to my channel. Today we'll be covering the second quantum sustain character on the latter half of 1.3, Xuan. We'll be going over her best gear, Litecoin options, teams, synergies, future potential, and so on. So let's start by heading to her base stats and her kit. At level 80, these are her base stats. She has the highest base HP among all preservation units. Her base defense is the same as Fire MC and is slightly less than Jeopard. As for her speed, it's 100, making her quite fast for a preservation character. This will allow her to focus more on other stats. Her energy cost is 135, which is the first odd one in the game as we don't have any other energy cost ending with a 5. Coming to her kit, her basic attack has a HP scaling, making the damage slightly more relevant. Using her skill will generate a field for the entire team, which I will be referring to as the Matrix. The Matrix will last for 3 turns. This means that the Matrix will last for 3 turns of fuxuan after the current turn of casting the skill. In order to have full uptime, you will need to cast skill on every 3rd turn of fuxuan. While the Matrix is present, allies will distribute 65% of the damage dealt by an enemy to fuxuan. What this means is that the ally will take 35% of the damage that the enemy does based on their own defense and damage reduction modifiers, and 65% of the damage is taken by fuxuan based on her own defense and damage reduction modifiers. Also, if allies and or fuxuan have shields, the shields will take priority when receiving damage. Every ally in the Matrix, including fuxuan, will have their crit rate increased and also their max HP increased based on fuxuan's max HP. Lastly, when fuxuan is defeated, the Matrix will cease to exist. Note that the Matrix will still be present even if fuxuan herself is CC'd. Her talent makes it so the entire team has damage reduction while fuxuan is still alive. Also, if fuxuan herself drops to 50% HP or less, she triggers a HP reversal, which restores her HP by an amount based on how much HP she is missing. This will not happen if she straight up dies. When entering battle, she has 1 HP reversal count and 1 count is used up when HP reversal is triggered. She can have a maximum of 2 counts. Her ult does AoE quantum damage to all enemies based on her max HP and grants her 1 HP reversal count. For sustain, I would recommend getting up just the talent and skill with more focus on her talent as it gives more survivability. For Ascension traces, the Ascension 2 trace gives fuxuan 20 extra energy when she uses her skill while the Matrix is active. This is basically a free basic attack giving you 50 energy total with a skill. The Ascension 4 trace heals all allies based on her max HP when she uses her ult. The healing isn't particularly high, but it provides some sustain to your team. The final trace makes it so each ally individually has immunity to crowd control 1 time until fuxuan uses her skill again, which will reset the immunity counter back to 1 for everyone. Also, if an enemy has multiple hits in an attack and each hit can apply a CC debuff, the immunity works for the entire attack, making it impossible to be CC'd in a single attack. I'd like to emphasize that this is only for CC debuffs, so that includes Imprisonment, Entanglement, Frozen, Dominated, and Outreach. Anything else will not be negated. From all the trace notes, she receives a total of 18.7% crit rate, 18% HP, and 10% effect res. Finally, her technique will generate a barrier in the overworld for 20 seconds that blocks all enemy attacks so you can't even be ambushed. You will have the Matrix active for 2 turns after entering the battle. Note that this is 2 turns with the technique and not 3, so you want to use skill on fuxuan on turn 2 after entering combat. Her kit actually looks very intriguing. The damage taken by allies funnels to fuxuan, who takes even less damage based on her defense and damage reduction modifiers. Not only is she providing your team with damage reduction, damage redirection, but also she has minor traits from Harmony and Abundance by giving max HP and crit rate buffs and also healing them a bit. The fact that the Matrix is tied to her skill and her own turns unlike Jeopard's ult is a big relief. So you don't have to worry about having Bronya advancing your team or having fast characters like Sela or Tingyun. Then there is her self-sustain talent that is similar to Luocha's auto-heal, where she heals herself up when she falls to 50% HP or below. The icing on the cake and probably the most desirable part of her kit is the CC immunity. Now we just have to see her sustaining capabilities against already existing enemies and also think about her future potential. Xuan is a sustain unit with HP scaling who also likes defense and damage reduction for self-sustain. Since she doesn't have to worry much about effect res, that leaves you with enough room to build further speed. The reason why defense and damage reduction are so good is because the formula for damage done to an ally depends on just these two. Less damage taken would translate to less HP needed to recover, leading to overall higher effective HP. Also, the character level doesn't actually come into play here, except for the fact that higher level means higher base defense. Moving on, for 4-piece relic sets, there is nothing that really stands out. Due to her ult cost being somewhat high even with her energy trace, the 4-piece wind and the 4-piece speed sets don't give you good enough value, as you may not be ulting too often and you lose out on sustain stats. The 4-piece guard set effect is anti-synergy, as Fuxuan just heals up due to her talent when 50% or lower HP. Finally, there's the 4-piece passerby set, which helps healing a bit, but I wouldn't recommend it. Since there is no go-to 4-piece set for her, ideally you choose a 2-piece combination between 2-piece guard, 2-piece HP, 2-piece speed, and in fact 2-piece defense as well. Since speed is the rarest substat to obtain, going 2-piece speed eliminates the gacha factor by a lot when farming. The 2-piece guard set and 2-piece defense set give personal sustain, but defense can be obtained in substats, making the damage reduction effect more valuable to equip. The 2-piece HP set is pretty good, as her healing and max HP buffs scale with HP. Overall, I would recommend going 2-piece guard with 2-piece speed, but of course it comes down to your substats on other sets. If you're satisfied with your speed on other sets, then you don't really need to go 2-piece speed. Coming to her planar options, you can choose between Fleet and Keel. I don't like the 1-wax set, as you're losing too much from switching out of the other two. If we compare Fleet and Keel, the crit damage buff and the attack buff from each of the sets are honestly close, so I prefer going Fleet as it gives HP percent. The effect was on Keel doesn't feel great until you are stacking it up to higher than 50%, and with Fuxuan you have immunity against CC, making effect was not as valuable. If you happen to have better substats on Keel, however, you could definitely stick with that. For main stats, it's mostly straightforward. Go HP percent or defense percent on body. Coming to the boots, go speed even if you're breaking 2-piece or 4-piece effects. Even though her skill is based on her own turns, you still want to have speed boots for more actions in order to generate more skill points and have better uptime on her ult and thus the talent as well. Then for the spear, you want to go HP percent or defense percent again. Finally, for the rope, you can choose between ER rope, HP rope, or defense rope. I have a separate section to discuss which one may suit your Fuxuan better. For substats, mostly aim for speed, HP percent, and defense percent. Try to aim for 8 or more HP percent and defense percent substats. Effect res doesn't feel that good, but it's okay to have it for non-CC debuffs. Flat HP and defense rolls are fine too. Coming back to speed, optimally speaking, you want at least one speed higher than your damage dealer's effective speed. This becomes complicated with DPS units like Sela in the picture. Even with no speed subs, Sela over 5 cycles has an effective speed of 138, assuming you have the speed buff from her skill on every turn after the first one, making Fuxuan require 139 speed in this specific case. Of course, when you use a basic attack on Sela, she advances forward with the speed buff, making her effective speed even higher. And then adding Bronya to the team makes it even more difficult to keep up with Sela. So you don't have to worry too much about hitting a specific speed breakpoint with a DPS like this one. Instead, try to focus on sustained substats and let speed happen naturally when the DPS happens to have varying effective speed. For the link rope, it's difficult to recommend a specific main stat for any Fuxuan against any content in any account. I believe all the rope options are situationally good in their own way. Let's first have a look at how the rotations are going to play out with and without the energy rope. Now she can do 4-turn ults, assuming she gets 20 flat energy from hits even without an energy rope. With an energy rope, she can do 3-turn ults, also assuming she receives 20 flat energy from getting hit. Ulting more will mean better healing uptime, faster HP reversal count generation, and faster breaks against quantum weakness, and of course a little bit more damage. If we do equip HP percent rope, it will translate to slightly stronger but slower heal, slightly better max HP buffs for the team, and she'll have better self-sustain. You can see the difference here. All this being said, I personally feel that in higher MOC, you generate a lot of energy through getting hit. Hits from elites and bosses give 10 to 15 to even 20 energy, making it even more feasible. Her being a preservation unit makes it easier for that to happen, and you could also use aggro increasing light cones for this exact reason. So in higher MOC, 2 HP plus 1 defense main stats or triple HP main stats depending on subsets with more focus on speed subs seems more ideal than ER rope to me. As for the signature light cone, it's like this. It will allow you to 3-turn ult if you get hit for 30 flat energy, and with both the LC and energy rope, you just need 10 flat energy. You could also use 2 skills for ult even without getting hit if you really need it. For 5-star options, her best in slot is obviously her own signature. It gives you HP percent and energy regen. Further, when her HP is reduced, you get a damage percent increase for all allies for 2 turns. Finally, at the start of every wave, you restore HP to all allies based on their respective missing HP. The HP restoration provides a lot of value to her as a solo sustainer. Even without the HP percent stat, the LC is quite nice for other preservation characters as well. Do note that the HP restoration is not triggered during a new phase when fighting bosses, as it doesn't count as a new wave, but entering a battle does count. Next up is Texture of Memories, which is a nice F2P option. It gives effect res, which is an okay stat, but whenever you get attacked, you generate a shield based on fuxuan's max HP that lasts for 2 turns. You can only proc the shield once every 3 turns. You further get damage reduction if fuxuan is attacked when having any shield on. As far as I understand, if an ally gets hit, the distributed damage to fuxuan will not consider this damage reduction. It's only when fuxuan receives the direct damage or dots. Overall, I'd say this is a fine option for self-sustain. The last 5-star option is Gepard's Light Cone, and this is actually quite good on her. The effect hit rate does nothing, but you get a lot of defense from here, which is very valuable for self-sustain. On top of that, you get an aggro boost of 200%, meaning that if you have a team consisting of fuxuan, a hunt or erudition character, and then harmony and nihility, you normally have a 35% chance to be attacked. But with this LC, you now have a 62% chance, making it 75% better in terms of being targeted. You can make the enemy focus fuxuan more this way and build up energy faster. You can definitely go for a defense or HP rope here. Then there is the 4-star version of this LC, which is Landau's Choice. It gives you the same aggro increase as well, and it gives you permanent damage reduction, making it a solid option. You can go HP or defense percent rope with this LC too. Day 1 of my new life increases defense percent and all type res for all allies, which is the same as damage reduction. This LC provides both self-sustain and also some sustain to the team, making it even harder to die. This fits in really well with how fuxuan's kit is designed. VR Wildfire only grants you the damage reduction buff to all allies for 5 turns, so it may not work well in higher MOC. However, you can see more value outside of MOC for the HP restoration. Rest of the 4-star and 3-star light cones don't feel that good in my opinion. So overall, after the signature light cone, I like the Day 1 LC and the aggro increasing LCs. Day 1 provides sustain to all, while the aggro increasing ones enable fuxuan to get hit more often, providing better uptime on ult on average and improve fuxuan's self-sustain. Note that the taunt LCs lose value depending on how often the enemy does blast and AoE. The Herda LC just gives self-sustain with a cooldown, making it slightly less reliable, while the others offer self-sustain and a bit more. It is however going to be the truest F2P option, as the rest are tied to gacha. Let's now look at how she performs with different light cones going up against a level 90 Yanqing ult who is in the current MOC. This is with 2 HP main stats, and you can see the build assumptions at the top. This is sorted based on how much damage your entire team receives. You can see that the signature LC is at the bottom, and that is because it doesn't have any damage reduction for Xuan or the team, but it gets its sustain from the HP restoration with each new wave. The Herda LC is the top only when shielded, and do keep in mind that the uptime can be iffy, which is why you see this performing the worst when the shield is on cooldown. So on average, its overall performance through the entire fight is very fine. You will notice the best out of day 1 LC, the more damage you take throughout the course of the battle. It may not help with increasing fuxuan's taunt value to gain energy through getting hit, but it does provide a team-wide damage reduction, making its sustain good enough. Moment of Victory and Landau's Choice increase her aggro, making it more likely for the enemy to focus her, and the damage reduction additionally helps for better self-sustain. This, however, loses value the more times the enemy does blast and AoE, and of course it's just a 62% chance, so you could get unlucky with the targeting. You could also pause and look at the numbers if we are considering 2 HP percent main stats and 1 defense percent main stat. And finally, for a better visual representation of the LC comparison, you could have a look at this. First of all, she is quite a universal sustain, which makes her function in pretty much any team. Other than that, I'm going to mention Mono Quantum. As I've talked about it in my links video, this team will feel very comfy to play but may struggle in damage against quantum resistant enemies, and since you're bringing 2 sustains, the damage isn't going to be very impressive. For that, you have to wait for Hanabi. There's no notable synergies other than this, as her kit is mostly universal. So the fact that you get a crit rate buff means that characters like Seela, who have a big multiplier on one attack with a singular hit, will definitely benefit from this. You may even use a crit damage body piece on your DPS depending on gear. Getting CC'd could be an immense damage loss for characters like Jing Yuan, whose Lightning Lord doesn't even go through if CC'd, so the CC immunity comes in clutch in cases like these. Kafka teams don't fully utilize her kit in the sense that they don't benefit from the crit rate buff, but the rest of her kit is still solid. She is, however, somewhat anti-synergistic with Destruction characters, which is the best damage dealing class for the current MOC design. The whole gimmick of Destruction units is to get hit by enemies and or to consume HP for better damage output. Xuan having the preservation aggro will conflict with their playstyle, and on top of that, Blade's self HP consumption and Jing Liu's HP drain do not count as receiving damage, so these will not get redirected to Xuan, making Blade and Jing Liu's teams somewhat vulnerable. For Blade, you still however receive a max HP increase and crit rate boosting his damage, so his overall damage will be around the same, but I feel like survival may be an issue. You're probably better off pairing Lynx with Blade instead if you do manage to get her. Finally, despite not even being either a dot unit or a destruction unit, Xuan isn't good for Yan Qing, as he doesn't want to lose HP for optimal damage. So it looks like Japar is gonna have to babysit him for even longer. Her E1 now grants an additional 30 crit damage with the matrix now totaling to 54 CV. If you're deciding between E1 and S1, E1 is an amazing damage buff for non-DOT teams, while S1 is mostly universal with personal HP and energy increase, damage percent increase for allies, and HP restoration for all in each wave. Note that you get S1 about 10 wishes earlier compared to E1, with a 75% chance instead of a 50% chance. You may choose better sustain with S1 or better damage with E1. E2 makes it so any ally or multiple allies that receive a killing blow in one enemy action will not be knocked down, and instead they will have their HP restored to 70%. This can happen one time per battle. For MOC, this definitely isn't necessary, but you can see some good value out of E2 and SU. E3 increases skill and talent level by 2. E4 gives her 5 energy when other allies are attacked when the matrix is present. I'm not sure if this is 5 energy per ally hit or if it's 5 energy per enemy action, and since it says attacked, dot may apply as well. This will have to be tested in the live version. Regardless, you can freely opt for a non-energy rope with E4. E5 increases ult level by 2 and basic attack level by 1. E6 will record the total amount of HP lost up until Fuxuan uses her ult. Her ult damage is increased by 200% of this recorded amount. This has a cap of 120% of her max HP, and the recorded lost HP is reset to 0. I haven't done calcs for this, but this just screams DPS Fuxuan is real. Her skill is honestly one of the best skills in the game. The CC immunity that it provides is so invaluable. It is straight up 100% effect res to all allies for one time against CC debuffs. This is arguably better than cleansing, as you're avoiding getting CC'd in the first place itself, as opposed to getting CC'd first and then cleansing. It is, as people say, prevention is better than cure. The length of the matrix is tied to Fuxuan's turn, so Bronya's advance forward, and high-speed units like Tingyun or Sela don't have to worry about being too fast, like they do with Jeopard. Even if Fuxuan herself gets CC'd, you still have the damage reduction and the matrix buffs up. It's only the HP reversal that will be down in the duration of her being CC'd. The fact that all of this is granted by a skill and not the ult is so good. Then add on the max HP and crit rate buffs, making it even better. It would have been nice if she was more skill point positive, but I suppose that would be too good given how much she does already. There are a few tips that I'd like to give regarding her ult usage. If you do have 2 stacks of reversal, you may want to wait until you use up 1 stack before ulting to get back to 2 stacks, and then if you have 0 stacks of reversal, you may want to hold on to it until the start of her turn, as it gives you more HP that way. Of course, if the enemy is about to do a threatening attack, do use the ult to heal up immediately. I'm not entirely sure how her autoplay would be for the skill, but I'm pretty sure that the AI is going to spam ult whenever you have it. Coming to the stat numbers for total HP, with her skill and defense, try to aim for 7 to 8k HP and 1.4k to 2k defense if we are assuming energy rope. If you're going triple HP main stat, that would be 8 to 9k HP, and if you're going 2 HP main stats and 1 defense main stat, it would be 7 to 8k HP again and 1800 to 2500 defense. The higher you get of both, the better she'll be able to solo sustain. She has a HP reversal mechanic giving her self-sustain, but what about the rest of the team? Let's take an example of a level 90 Silver Main Lieutenant who has an ability with a 300% multiplier. Without Fuxuan on the team, an ally with 3000 HP and 950 defense can take 2 hits, and they die on the 3rd hit. Then with Fuxuan on Landau's LC, that doesn't even help with the survival of the rest of the team. The ally with 3500 HP and 950 defense will take 12 hits to die, which is 4 times more. This means that Fuxuan provides protection to her allies from getting 1 to 3 shotted. While all of this does make her sound invincible, she does have her own flaws. Let's start with AoE nukes. You may encounter a situation where you have used up your HP reversals and are below the 50% HP mark before a big AoE attack, depending on how exactly the fight goes. She definitely can get one shot easier at around the 60% HP mark if you don't have enough investment. You may also find yourself in situations where your allies might be low, making them more susceptible to dying towards the end of the battle. But to be frank, as long as you're bringing the right weakness type DPS character to deal better damage and break the enemies better, rendering them from taking actions, you'll mostly be fine, so don't worry too much about it. It only becomes a lot harder when you are brute forcing. She will not be able to keep your team alive indefinitely, so think of it like there's a clock ticking. You need to defeat the enemy before they do that to you. So her solo sustaining ability depends on how much damage and break you do. All in all, what matters is that you finish the battle while everyone is still alive. Next up are dots, which don't count as CC. AoE dots may hurt your sustain, especially when they stack up. You can see this happening quite a bit already with the Ascended Lady, and we are going to have a fun time when the Swarm invades the 1.4 MOC. The boss does big AoE damage and applies AoE dots. Finally, we have other non-CC debuffs that affect your stats, which is my biggest gripe. If we take a look at the previous MOC 10, the first half is a bad matchup for her. The Frigid Prowler applies a debuff that lasts until the end of the battle, which does not count as CC, and you can only get rid of it through another sustain that can cleanse or have someone like Bronya. Then there is the ice soldiers that he summons, which delay your action. Again, this doesn't count as CC. In the final wave, we have 2 decaying shadows. While you may be immune for 1 attack from CC, there is no guarantee that you will not get CC'd from the second one. Other than these, there's the Gatekeeper buddies and the low tier Silvermane guard that affect your stats in similar manners. The defense reduction debuffs have the potential to hurt fuxuan's solo sustainability quite drastically. Of course, this is just the enemies that we have right now, and the future of non-CC debuffs rests entirely in the hands of Hoyoverse. We do not know if we are going to get characters similar to Bronya that can cleanse despite not being an abundance or preservation character, but it may be safe to assume so. To sum all that up, these are her pros and cons. With all this in mind, how does she compare to other sustain units? In my opinion, there is no clear winner as she performs better than others in some situations, while in other ones it's vice versa. Even a 4-star unit like Lynx offers better utility when needing the AoE cleanse. To wrap things up, let's assess her pull value. I consider supports to be typically high as they fit in most teams. Xuan is the second limited 5-star that plays the sustain role, making her pull value pretty strong. She is arguably the best pull in the game if you don't have Luocha. Even if you do have Luocha, you could definitely use her on the other half of MOC. I personally feel that with the addition of Lynx, fuxuan may not be as necessary if you already own Luocha, and that is exactly what I'm trying for since I kinda want Jingliu over fuxuan, but that's just my opinion. Also, going specifically for Lynx means spending Jades to get a 4-star, and we all know how painful that could get. So the choice is up to you. Anyways, that does it for this video. I had to speedrun this guide and the theory crafting part itself right after the Lynx video. I'm glad I managed to get it done with the timing of her trailer. I'm honestly having a lot of fun learning, crafting, and editing these guides in my free time. I know these videos are super long, but I hope they are being insightful. Thank you for sticking till the end, and please do consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps a ton, meaning I can dish out more content like this. It was indeed a pleasure delivering this, and I will catch you guys on Jingliu's pre-release. Peace!